Right, are we ready?
Fine.
Oh, okay, we're ready. Hello and welcome to another edition of winemastery.co.uk. We're here to let you get to the wine or wines that you enjoy most, and we're trying to get you there the fastest possible route, so you don't have to taste all of those wines that you're not going to enjoy. My name's John Lightford and
I'm John Murphy.
And we're here, as I say, to tell you about wines. So we've talked about red wines in a couple of episodes ago. This is episode number 6. And today, what we're going to talk about, particularly in reds, John?
Well, this evening we're going to go down the Cabernet Sauvignon route. I think it's a nice, easy one, a nice middle road for us to start on, and kind of it gives you a good bearing as to what kind of red you might like. It does sit, as I say, quite in the middle, so it's you can go much heavier from this and much lighter. So we'll see what this evening's tasting has in store.
So how would they know if they like it fuller or lighter? What would?
Well, again, that's what we'll go through today. We've got 3 Cabernet Sauvignons on for you from different countries, all about a similar kind of price, but it's just showing you the difference from Cabernet Sauvignons from different kind of countries. And from this, you should be able to tell if you do like a heavier or a lighter red. So as I say, starting in the middle with the Cabernet Sauvignon.
And that was John's very polite way of saying, I'm jumping the gun, he's going to get to it in a minute.
Very close.
So what are we kicking off with?
Okay, first one this evening is quite an unusual one. Is this one because I was looking at again different styles of the Cabernet Sauvignon and the different countries, and so I've actually gone to Argentina for our first Cabernet Sauvignon of the evening. Now, usually the signature grape of Argentina is their Malbec. That's what they do very, very well, and that's what they're well known for. But they do make a fantastic Cabernet Sauvignon as well. Something that again is quite underrated, or you don't read about quite so much. So let's have a little go, John.
Let's have a go. So I seem to remember we look first.
We have a look at the colour.
Yeah.
I put you a bit of pepper just.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you have as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you see, for me, that is quite a rich colour in there. But
Yeah.
I'd probably describe that as a kind of ruby.
Yes.
A ruby colour. It's not too deep.
I once went out with a girl called Ruby.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Lovely lady.
Remember your wife
Hi,
watches
Ruby.
this?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Careful. Yeah, so yeah, nice. Nothing too overpowering, which I would have expected anyway from this. So.
Oh, I've sniffed before you. Is that allowed?
That is allowed. You get cracking. Don't wait for me. Yeah, see, as I said now, the Cabernet Sauvignon for me does tend to be, out of all the kind of red wines, for me it tends to be more kind of fruit-driven grape, and as such, the more obvious and apparent, and so when you're starting out, learning about wines or drinking wines, I think Cabernet Sauvignon is a good red for you to start on, because things are fairly obvious in this one. I mean, again, don't worry if you don't get the kind of the flavours or the smells, which we are going to get, but we'll have a little go.
Before we do that, we once had a friend that suggested that if you've got red wine, you should decant it and really slosh it in to get the air into the...
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I was saying, actually opening your bottle and pouring that glass out to begin with gets the air in there, but also an old trick, and I don't know if you remember from back in the day in the restaurants when...
What are you trying to say about Albion?
I'm just saying, they obviously won't remember. You'd see the kind of waiters that have a carafe of wine and they kind of pour it from one to the other, and that was basically just to get the air in. The air really softens out, a red wine, and it is a very good trick. If you've got a red wine that's a bit harsh on the tannins, a bit sharp as such, just let it air a little bit longer, or as you just said there, get the air sloshing, plenty of air in there, and it does really work. It really softens up and can make a kind of a fairly poorer wine taste much better.
I guess if it's got cinnamon in the bottom, obviously not the thing to do. But
no.
That's not what happens these days very much, or very old wines.
No, you still do get them, but it's more the French wines, and it is the aged ones, which you would need to decant anyway, just to get rid of the sediment. There's nothing worse, than I get into the bottom of a glass of wine. Where all of that happened many times. Not that it stopped me at all. So.
Oh, I nearly sit before you.
We haven't got
full starting gate.
From there, what are you getting from that nose? You can tell me, or can I tell you?
I'm getting red wine.
That's a good start. That is a good start. See, I would get from there black cherry.
Black cherry.
Cherry, yeah, or cherry-ish, definitely.
Yeah, maybe cherry, yeah.
Cherry, and for me, it's not massive, and it's unusual again for this, and perhaps we might find this later on, but it's quite chocolatey. It has a chocolatey smell. Yeah,
really?
About yeah.
No, not there at all.
Even so much as like you could put those two together and have the gâteau. Legato, yeah. I'm getting that in there, but it does smell also quite light. There's a lot of alcohol. I can smell alcohol in there, so not much in the way of all these fruity flavours. I wouldn't say this is an overly complex Cabernet Sauvignon, definitely not.
When you're choosing a wine, does alcohol, they obviously all put in how much percentage alcohol. Should that be part of the consideration, or absolutely nothing to do with it?
For me, it doesn't really mean a lot. I'm not overly bothered about it. But what you do tend to find is some wines, when they start getting up, and it's changed again, because wine, it used to be 11, 12, 13% for your red wines. You'd find them in that kind of bracket. Nowadays, they're moving up in alcohol. I have no idea why, but it's 13, 13.5, 14, and even up to 15% now, which used to be kind of reserved for the the big Amarone and the Barolos of this world. But sometimes, if they have got such an amount of alcohol in there, it can be quite apparent in the flavour, and can spoil it. But to be fair, for me, the more alcohol,
the happier you are.
Yeah, it's never really bothered me. It's not something I take into consideration. But again, it's completely up to yourselves.
I find that this one, in terms of the smell, is that the right word, smell? I'm not sure.
The nose,
yeah,
the nose.
The nose, thank you. The nose. That it's not as full as this, even some of the whites we've had. It's all like...
No, it doesn't have that power. There is just kind of little hits of what you're going to get, which is why, sometimes you do need to really get your face and then... keep it almost on your face to pick things out. Whereas like the unoaked Chardonnays we tried in the past, that was quite a nice, full, kind of stayed with you, and you could smell it from here as opposed to getting straight in there.
Yeah, okay.
Ready for a little taste, John?
I'm ready.
No, let's go for it.
I can't taste cherry.
No, and that's odd. Because generally when you're smelling the wine, you should be able to... Anything you're smelling should come through on the flavour, and that's what would make a wine a good wine, in some respects. But for me, it has got again, it's quite a thin one. It's quite thin. But for me, there is definitely there's a hint of vanilla in there. Definitely has vanilla.
I don't like the other wines we've tried. I can actually feel like a warming sensation as it's sort of going down, whereas the others I've not noticed that.
No, so I suppose with it being, especially now we're in the winter time, a lot of people do turn to red wines now. They move away from the whites and come onto the heavier, the more warming.
Yeah.
Reds, you can just imagine being sat in front of the fire, bottle of this open, big chunk of cheese, and you're away.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm there.
Now there is in that also something which I got earlier with, and again this gets that bit of snobbery, it's a bit Parma Violet-y. Do you remember those sweeties that you used to have? The Parma Violets?
No, what are they?
Do you like little do you like violet flavour, violet coloured? I'm sure someone will remember them. No, do you remember? I mean, my dad told me all about it. I'll get you some Parma Violets for next time.
Christmas, get me a tube. Are they in tubes?
No, yes they are, yeah. I'll get out for Christmas. But what's also in there is those tannins, and again, the tannins are, actually we've spoke about these before, but it's the dry edge, which kind of has teeth coating kind of thing. You feel it in your cheeks. I say tea has tannins also. It's basically from the grape skin. Obviously, to make a red wine, as we've gone through before, you have to leave the grape juice and the skin together, and the skin then imparts the flavour. But then if you were to chew a grape skin, that kind of dry sensation you would get from that. Well, that ultimately comes through into the wine. And that is quite high in the tannins for me. For a wine that's quite thin as such, and that would be a wine term. The wine is quite thin, not too much flavour there. It doesn't suit that amount of tannins. That would be too much tannins for my liking. I mean, obviously with food that would work much, much better. The tannins would almost disappear. But as we're just drinking it neat, so to speak.
So is this a relatively young wine?
It is indeed, yeah. I think we're on 2013 for this one, so it is a fairly young Cabernet Sauvignon. It's only been in the barrel for, well, it would have been 6 months to a year. Obviously they can put them in barrels for as long as they want, but there will be a limit on it. But the longer they do leave it in the barrels, the better the flavour you get. It kind of takes on a lot of the oakiness from the barrel, and it also softens out those tannins. So looking at an aged red wine in general, but Cabernet Sauvignon will go with, you do tend to get a better wine, really. But also because, you know, somebody has kept that wine in a barrel for, let's say, a year, 2 years, you know, you're then paying for that because obviously someone's had their money tied up for that amount of time. You are going to pay for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this retails about £11-12-ish. Depending on what you're looking for, I would describe that as a light Cabernet Sauvignon, fairly easy, quite heavy on the tannins. I don't know if that would be the perfect Cabernet Sauvignon for you to start on.
Well, no, but I mean, but in terms of it, if it's been light, I guess, so if someone bought this, then they would, and they liked it, then you'd say, typically that maybe Cabernet Sauvignons are not quite for them.
Yeah, perhaps, and then I'd try and lean you on, well, I say I'd try and lean you onto something else, perhaps a Gamay grape, which is a little bit softer and more raspberry-ish. Depending on what you did or didn't like about that. So yeah, any questions or comments, you know, please feel free to email us and we'll answer those questions for you.
Absolutely, and in case you haven't caught in previous videos, there are some photographs at the end of the video and on the website, www.winemastery.co.uk, of the wines, and obviously also a link to John's shop here where you can order them directly if you wish, or you can take the photograph off to your local independent wine retailer and say, I want to try one like this, please.
Yep, I can't pick the independent retailers up enough.
Of course not. Okay, was that finished part one?
I think that, I'm very happy with that. Let's move on to our second red.
We'll see you on the flip side. Cheers.
Chin-chin.